Real questions, real answers for real life. Come on in and pull up a chair. You're at 1850 Main Street with Michael DelGiorno and David Zanotti.
Has anyone ever been to the Iowa State Fair? And do they really wave pork chops?
When I think of in Tulsa, I went to the fair religiously every year and have so many greght memories. I have one traumatic memory where I went in one of the freak shows. And when I got in there, I was the only one in there. It was just me and this bearded woman. And I guess I hadn't pre-thought it through enough. Like, well, now what do I do? So I went, hi. And she went, hi. And I said, how are you? Fine. And it just didn't go anywhere. But I love the fair is something but I have now in 16 years, I haven't done one fair.
Thank God I wasn't drinking coffee for the end of that story.
No, because you don't understand. If you went in with a group of people.
No, I don't understand.
If you went in with a group of people, it'd be one thing. But when you walk in and you're all alone with them, then it's like, I can't stare at you. Now you're a human being and,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was really uncomfortable. But I love the fair. I don't know that I would.
You can't even say bearded lady anymore on broadcast radio. How can you can't say bearded. You can't say bearded lady
you can't say that at family dinners either. But that's another story.
Okay.
But enough of our Italian heritage. No, but my point is, we used to go to the fair every year. I have not gone in Tennessee, and I've certainly not gone in Iowa. I don't know. I think funnel cakes. I think rides. I think cool weather. I think, being with friends and family.
But it's Iowa. Everything's different in Iowa because Iowa's always been first. Iowa and New Hampshire have their own mystique because of being the leadoff states in the presidential primary campaign. So I get it. I just was surprised to learn something about the Iowa State Fair I didn't know, is that you go to a certain booth or certain, assembly hall or something, and the tradition is to wave a pork chop, on a stick. All right, now that one, that was,
wow. As you know, my favorite animal is a pig.
Okay.
Which is why I always had English bulldogs. So one of my traditions was I would always go to the barn area, hang out with the pigs, because I just laugh. I love pigs. And then Andrew and I would awkwardly go over to the pork council and have a pork sandwich. I always thought that was bad, but I never waved it. I just kind of ate it in shame after visiting them.
Ernest P. Worrell's famous favorite meat was pork. He was a white meat guy. I get it. That was
how well do you know me that you're just now realizing, don't bring up the fair around Michael. He's really weird.
There's one we're definitely not talking about again. Okay, so let's move the news story along just a smidge.
So have you been to the Iowa State Fair?
No, I've never been to the Iowa State Fair. No, I'd love to go. I've been in and out of Iowa a number of times, but I think Iowa would be a lot of fun this time of year, though I would never want to be around Iowa the night of the caucuses.
No.
Okay. Ooh, what a thing, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about this. Clearly, Iowa was not established by Italians. You could not have Italians going from house to house having a continuing all-night argument about the presidential election. That would never work.
No.
Not possible.
See, my grandfather visiting us in Chicago, and my dad had a George McGovern sign, not a Richard Nixon sign in our front yard. It really wasn't a caucus as much as it was a ruckus. It was a ruckus.
Yes, somebody hit it about the window. Okay, so it's Iowa time. It's time before the primaries, and here we go. It's the summer before the year, so it's time. And DeSantis goes out there. I guess they all were out there at the Iowa State Fair. And the first story that caught my attention was the fact that when DeSantis was speaking, the Trump protesters were basically chanting, "We want Trump, we want Trump, we want Trump." And evidently they made it significant enough that it was hard for DeSantis to do whatever he was trying to do at that particular setting or seating or wherever he was. Okay, what do you expect, right? I mean, it's a fair.
Well, I had a different take on it. I thought of, like people I've worked with in the past. And if I was ever at an event with another host, and while the other host was speaking, any of my fans or supporters started being disrespectful like that, I'd have grabbed the microphone and chastised them. So I don't know. I mean, are people interested in a caucus? Are they interested in a primary? Are they just interested in their candidate? Nobody else has a right to speak.
Well, then let's talk about what Trump does. All right, so he knows that. Now, if I got the story right, these are media reports. Right. So Trump knows that DeSantis is on the ground at the fairgrounds. So he circles the fairgrounds with his big jet. Okay.
to create noise interference, yes.
Yeah, I mean, come on. You can see it. It's low. There he is.
So he's up on top, and his fans are on the ground, all just being disrupted.
And then so he does land the plane, and then he shows up at the fair. He doesn't do any public address. He just moves through the fairgrounds with his crowd, goes to the pork chop house, waves the pork chop, does the thing. So it's just this. Now, to me, I don't know. That's old-fashioned ground politics. I think it's
getting it's to get in your head, obviously, right?
Sure, it's the whole thing, and so the big question that continues to come along though is I have a couple questions. One is timing, because we're still a pretty good ways out here. And I mean, it's a long time. We've got to go through the holidays. We got to go through Christmas. We got to get into January before we start talking about, gee, these primaries are really going to start happening.
Well, you're over a year out of the general, but you're not that far out from the primaries. Right. But it's definitely early camp, right? Early camp, not even preseason.
Yeah, it's right. It's not even preseason. It's getting close, but so here's the question that I have, and it kind of relates into the story. And as soon as this happened to me last week, the first person I wanted to ask was you. I haven't said this to anybody. I'm going to talk to Michael. What does Michael think about this?
No, I've never waved pork.
No.
Is that where you're going?
You are not a pork waver.
Not a pork waver.
Right? Yeah. And in case that means something that I have no idea about, I already apologize.
Yeah.
Whatever. So I'm with some people from Florida, and they're talking about the upcoming presidential election, and they're very significant Ron DeSantis fans. They appreciate the governor's work there and all that sort of stuff. And so they wanted to talk. Everybody wants to talk about the presidential election. I don't bring it up. They bring it up. So we're talking. And they said to me, look, we live in Florida and we really like Ron DeSantis. But our feeling is this. The next election is Trump's election to win or lose. And there's nothing anybody's going to be able to do about it. That's reality. It's Trump's to win or lose. And, these are some of the most sincere, level-headed people that I know. They don't even identify themselves as strongly partisan Republican or Democrat. They're just trying to tell me what they're sensing on the ground. And it rang a bell in my head. And I thought, Michael, is that so obvious that good working, honest folk already realized that what America bought in 2016, and then it got truncated. It got snapped based on COVID and all the other things in 2020, that as long as Trump had another shot at it, it's sort of like what we got in for with a dime, America's in for $1. I mean, and then all the things that have happened since. Is that just the truth?
I never do this, answer a question with a question, but I don't, because I wasn't in the room and I don't know your friends. Was that an assumption or an implication? Were they implying it's his and he should have every chance to run again?
No, they were just saying it. They were just saying it as an observation. Right, they said no matter what anybody says about everybody else, look, Trump's got to be heard from again. It's like the case isn't done.
Well,
he's got another shot.
Yeah, I'm not that far in assumption. I still think that there's some tricky places for Donald Trump. I think in a past conversation, you even brought up, you thought he would really struggle in both New Hampshire and Iowa. And I think that there's a bit of assumption there. I don't think it's implied. In other words, I don't think he deserves it. Just like I don't think a one-term president deserves my support for reelection necessarily.
Right.
He may have done a poor job. I elected him for one term. He had a campaign that I vetted, and he had a campaign to win my heart and mind and maybe won my vote. And then if he wins the election, then I watch his leadership. And if I don't see it, he doesn't have my support.
Okay, so let me ask.
In general. So, no, I don't buy either, quite frankly. But
okay, all right. So let me take it one step farther and try to make their argument better than I did. And I'm not necessarily saying I agree with it yet, but it really, coming from these folks, it made me think. What they're trying to say, I think, is we elected America now. We're talking about the majority of Americans elected this guy from so far outside the historic process of the presidency. And it was going pretty darn good, in their opinion. And then it got completely disrupted by COVID. And then things turned upside down and went every way sideways. Then the election happens. And the next thing you know, this guy who was of this historic impact and import suddenly is on the sidelines. And he gets beat by the guy in the basement. Okay, all right. Now that's pretty hard to imagine. And no one thought he was going to ride off in the sunset. Then you get to the situation where he's out of office, and after having been impeached twice in office, I think one was for a letter, one was for a phone call. I'm not exactly sure now in retrospect. Then after the January 6th committee goes through everything they went through, but then manages to lose all their documents. They didn't lose them. They destroyed all the documents. So now they're being subpoenaed and they don't have anything to show for it. But then all of the subpoenas and all of the endless tirade against this guy out of office, almost like until he's dead, buried, exhumed, bones burned, buried again, and then maybe buried at sea, will they ever stop leaving this and leave this guy alone? There's almost
or
a
move
sense,
on to the next one that they don't want us to be able to.
Right. It's almost a sense that this is a fight we can't get away from until it's finished.
Yeah,
I wonder how many other people feel that way.
Well, I don't.
Okay.
Because I don't think America's in the same place it was in 2016. You know, there are some disruptions that happen in our lives, and they're disruptions, and they're, it's kind of like the age-old conversation between urgent and important. Most leaders are not leaders, they're managers, and most managers never get to lead because they're always consumed with what is urgent. The real leaders don't live in the urgent. They deal with the necessary urgent, but they find time and ways to manage and live in the important. And so sometimes things pop up and they take over our lives and we just can't be where we need to be. But when it ends, we're back again. Then there are some things that happen that by the time they're over, we're not the same person anymore and our lives aren't in the same place anymore. My problem is I don't think America is recognizable from 2016. In other words, COVID didn't happen and now it's over. COVID happened like Katrina happened and New Orleans was never the same. And I'm not so certain America's ever going to be the same. So I don't know that it translates, but time will tell. And part of my skepticism is you and I have been in elections. Hillary will tell you that we presumed were no-brainers and they just didn't turn out that way. Someone fades, someone rises, someone gaffes, someone has a victorious, triumphant moment, somebody cuts a deal, and things just change on a dime. McCain is a great example of that.
What are you trying to make me sick?
Bring up John McCain?
What are you doing? What? Let's talk about Kennedy. Let's not talk about McCain.
That's a trigger, isn't it? Well, Dole. I got to tell you something. Dole happened. I'm trying to think who were some of our worst. Dole really happened. McCain really happened. Mitt Romney really happened. Yeah, I know. We just kind of gloss over that, right? Like the 90s. It didn't happen. But my point is we've seen how these things can change. It may feel that way now to those people, but there's a lot that's got to happen and a lot that can change on a dime. And I'm not so certain that there's anything about now that is all relatable or relevant to the way things were in 2016.
Combined, Michael and David have been on the airwaves for almost 70 years. They have seen a lot of elections and a lot of presidents. And they're both independents. Surprised? Learn more at 1850mainstreet.com.
Next question that came up in this conversation. DeSantis is doing a good job as governor. He's got 2 years left. They need him in Florida for 2 more years, to say the least, to put a lot of things in the right place. So these folks aren't anxious to lose him to a presidency, though they say, if the country needs him, the country needs him, but they sure like him in Florida. They're wondering, is he pulling a Reagan versus Ford 76? Now, I know that he's not running against an incumbent president. He's running against the previous president.
No, it's a great point.
Is he setting himself so that there can be a clear point that he's not Donald Trump? Because he knows Trump's going to get the nomination. Whatever's going to happen then is going to happen. But he's at least made a mark of his own independence and his ability to stand on his own 2 feet. Is that what he's doing?
Well, most people that were in that position, didn't run, right? They just said, this is Trump's. We're going to just stay out of it. And
but Reagan ran hopelessly in 76.
Right. And now DeSantis is doing it. So I think, if he did, I think that's very wise, depending on how he handles it, which I'll give you a sign. Last time you and I talked about DeSantis, and I started rolling through what I don't think the average talk show host even understands. where he went to undergraduate, where he went to
his resume.
Yeah, where he got his law degree, what he did after he graduated from Harvard Law. Did he go get a big job? Did he start becoming a community organizer or speaking at?
Well, let's start that was he born with a silver spoon?
No, and then he goes to the Navy, for 16 years.
And then as a JAG lawyer, he's assigned. He's working with the Navy SEALs.
And you came to the determination that I'll give him this in terms of failure to launch. He should be talking about himself and his life and his story. And what did he do this week? He fired his campaign manager. So he's showing signs of changing. I just haven't seen that campaign do a lot of things really tactically and strategically well or smart. And you're suggesting he did the ultimate smart thing and get in, run and lose. So you're the heir apparent 4 years and an inevitable 4 years, because remember, Trump only gets one term.
Yeah, because if look, this isn't rocket science. My guess is that the reason that he needs to have different people is because the people around him want to win and he knows that he can't. And so he's setting himself in a position of posturing, and that's got to be maddening for people who are spending money to posture.
You're already seeing, aren't you kind of feeling that with the Trump supporters? Like, get out of the way. You're in the way.
Exactly. I mean, if you can't take him out, then you got to get out.
But
right?
the response should be, we're a year out from the general. We're in camp, not even preseason for the primary. He has 20%. I mean, it's not like we're talking Ramaswamy here. We're talking more RFK.
You just love to say that. I mean, you're doing a Jim Nance. How would Jim Nance say Ramaswamy?
Ramaswamy. No, but I think I'm not ready to dismiss. Look, I'll look you in the eye right now and tell you as your friend. Nobody's won my heart and mind. Nobody's won my vote yet.
Yeah, but you really like Ramaswamy. Okay, now let's go with.
I do. Why do you say that?
You do. See,
I do. I'll admit it. I like him.
He's winning your heart. He's slowly winning your heart. So the other question about DeSantis is, okay, he knows he can't win. Is he staying in the game at 20% just in case these indictments do take Trump out? Is he standing and waiting?
No, because he made the decision before it even started.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be like implying, do you think RFK got in this because he thought sooner or later the Hunter thing would break? Because you know as well as I do, if anything breaks to the point where maybe Biden does not seek re-election, and that could still happen in the next 2 to 3 to 4 months, I still think you're going to see Gavin Newsom trotting out of the bullpen of California towards the center of the country like a relief pitcher in the ninth inning. But I think RFK ran because I think RFK translates more to Ramaswamy. I will give you that. These people wanted to have a say in the dialogue. They wanted us to stop playing presidential worship politics, personality politics, divide and conquer and fight on social media. Let's talk about what's broke. Let's talk about the issues and let's find common ground and fix them. I think that's both of their motives. Definitely for Ramaswamy and RFK. And I think a little bit for DeSantis. There might have been a little bit of heir apparent for DeSantis. You're running the leading city,
Speaking of running out of the bullpen, don't you think that it's important that you keep me informed, because I don't know when the Little League World Series actually begins?
This week.
Everybody,
I was really rooting for your Ohio team, which I thought was a really great team. I was really rooting for Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a lot of...
I don't root for anybody until I actually see them there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, but out of all the places you live, whom you have to root for will once again be the southeastern region, which will be represented by Nolensville, Tennessee, which is an
get out Nolensville, mate.
Extraordinary dynasty they've got going there. Now, we had a Goodlettsville early dynasty about 7 years ago.
We spend a lot of time in Nolensville in case people might just wonder how big Nolensville is. I mean, you can drive through in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And that's if the lights are red.
And that's if you slow down to wave. Yeah.
Yeah, well, but actually the traffic's so bad it now takes about 15 minutes. But in any case.
So, yeah, but Nolensville plays on Friday at 3 o'clock on ESPN. But the actual Little League World Series begins on the 16th, which I believe is Wednesday.
So why do I bring this up? Because it is the best sporting event of the year. And since you brought up baseball, we might as well talk about it, let people know right now. There's going to be time dedicated to the Little League World Series. There has to be time dedicated to the Little League World Series in our conversations. Because, we're going to be texting each other left and right. So Wednesday
how
at
is it,
what time?
Can I just tell you, how is it in a culture? We should feel very challenged. Everybody talks about, are we leaving our next generation in better hands than we received it? do we really think we're doing a better job of parenting than our parents or grandparents or great-grandparents? So the culture generally has the impression that we don't raise up children very well. We over-coddle. And yet Little League World Series rolls around, and here's 12-year-olds with such high baseball IQ, such flawless fundamentals,
such discipline.
Yeah, swings.
Commitment.
That have been crafted. Yeah. And I'm like, boy, I hope we're training up our children like we're training up our Little League baseball players, because the future would be very, very bright versus other countries. That's for sure.
Well, if you're looking for us at the Little League World Series, look for two guys that definitely need this still diet more than just a little, maybe, riding down the hill on large pieces of cardboard.
I'd do it.
Certain that
I'd do it old and all.
Yes, you would. And with their neurosurgeons waiting to greet them at the end.
So, yeah, we got that going for us. But I've never waved pork at the Iowa State Fair, I can assure you that. Nor have I interrupted a speaker with another candidate's name. All right, so what's the full circle on all of this? You know what I would say? I would say so far, if this is the early circus, early theater of presidential politics, it hasn't really attracted me.
I agree. I don't think it's attracted anybody.
And what little I'm getting by way of Twitter, by way of Facebook, by way of talk radio, no one's really impressing me. Well, I take that back. Vivek Ramaswamy did have a moment that... No, I'm not. I'm just going to say...
Ramaswamy, I told you he's got your heart. He's in.
I think he had me at hello, but...
Okay. So my thought is getting past Trump. I wonder if nobody can get past Trump. I'm just wondering if there's something that happened in our psyche over all this, that until it's over, it's not over, and it won't be over until the voters have one more say.
But you can't have it both ways, Dave, because if that's true, he can't play the victim card. And we strategize the victim card. A 2.0 victim card is the high road and best road for Trump.
The conversations are just getting started. To get connected, check out 1850mainstreet.com. We don't data mine anyone or sell your information. Subscribe today so you don't miss a single conversation. We'll see you next time here at 1850 Main Street.